Justice. The process or result of using laws to fairly judge and punish. Justice. The maintenance or administration of what is just, especially by the impartial adjustment of conflicting claims or the assignment of merited rewards or punishments. Justice. The principle or ideal of just dealing and right action. Just. Conforming to a standard of correctness. Fair. Agreeing with what is thought to be right or acceptable. Fair. Treating people in a way that does not favor some over others. Fair. Not too harsh or critical. Definitions thanks to dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster, and the Free Dictionary. You have not been around children much if you have never heard the anguished cry of, "That's not fair." You've probably also never been an employer, or a police officer, an attorney, or sat in a crowded airport or on a packed airplane. My mother had a phrase that would always drive me crazy. Not, I think, because it was so frustratingly and skillfully inserted into some rant or complaint that I was leveling at a sibling or schoolteacher, but because in its own poetic way, I think it made too much sense. I would moan, "But it's not fair," to which she would invariably reply, "No, it's not a fair, it's a circus." What was that supposed to mean? I hated that retort. She obviously didn't understand the magnitude of the injustice I was suffering under. How could she offer such a trite retort in the face of such a wearying inequity? And now I'm inclined to say the same thing to my own children and my employees. Why? Because life is not fair. And sometimes life really is as ridiculous as a spinning circus. See, fairness is based on perspective. What may not seem fair to me may seem perfectly fine to you. The fact that the developer placed my fence across the property line on your land 10 years ago may seem perfectly fine to me, while it certainly does not seem fair to you. The fact that your fellow employee makes $3 an hour more than you for doing the same job? Not fair. But from whose perspective? It takes a wise arbitrator to sort out fairness. But it's not so nuanced when it comes to justice. See, justice is based on a standard, not a perspective. Law recognizes only one perspective, its own. Your opinion or perspective on a speed limit can be quickly checked against the posted standard. Your mendacity can be held up to the standard of honesty and judged. Your theft held up against the appropriate laws and condemned. Your rights juxtaposed to a constitution and verified. Fairness has little to do with justice. Thus, God, who is just, has not tethered himself to our individual definitions of fairness. When we cry out, "God, this is not fair," he may agree with you wholeheartedly, but that does not compromise his justice or his goodness. You may bemoan your poor childhood or your miserable marriage, but that does not change God's justice or his opinion of your actions. "It's not fair that I was abused," you say. And we might find common ground on that point. But God's standard still remains for us to obey or conform to. God's standard rises above any of our individual perspectives. From our perspective, it does not seem fair that some feast while others starve. It does not seem fair that some are warm and dry while others shiver in misery. It does not seem fair that some have peace and happiness for a lifetime, while others endure war, famine, and oppression for generations. It does not seem fair that one man, Jesus, should die for the sins of the whole world. And yet, it is just. See, God's standard is not fairness. It's perfection, holiness. And it's a mandate to all mankind, and is not contingent on our circumstances. God's standard was met only once by the perfect life and sacrificial death of one person, Jesus. What's more, God's standard of perfection is impossibly difficult to achieve, both for the starving and the fed, the weary and the rested, the abused and the comfortable. God said, "Be holy, for I am holy." And yet, outside of Jesus, there is none righteous, no, not one. God's high standard simply cannot be met by fallen man. Therefore, we are separated from holy God, who justly judges us to be all under sin, guilty, and deserving of the just punishment, eternal separation from himself in hell. That's what justice looks like. But praise be to God, there's another face to justice. Praise be to God that he is not willing that any should perish. Praise be to God who provided an incomparable substitute, a sacrifice to take the place of all who accept the gift of Jesus, the gift which we cannot comprehend. But though we cannot comprehend the gift, remember, God's justice is not contingent on our understanding or our perspective. God has declared that the blood of Jesus will be enough to cleanse away our sin. God has declared that all who accept this cleansing will be made holy, will be made righteous, will be lifted high to measure up to his standard. It's not fair. It's amazing. It's amazing grace. It's amazing love.